York Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is upset at Donald Trump for picking Tulsi Gabbard to be the next director of national intelligence. Let's take a look.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it, loves her.
And I actually think almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating. And Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals.
Including
abroad.
in Syria.
And let's be very clear, a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period.
As is Donald Trump as president of the United States.
One staunch Trump supporter slammed AOC on X, writing, "Dear Sandy, AOC, are you high on something? Tulsi Gabbard is the most anti-Endless Wars nominee for Director of National Intelligence in years. That's why the Uniparty hates her." So I was a little surprised to see this level of anti-Tulsi opprobrium from AOC, because I would have thought AOC, as a self-described anti-war progressive left person, would have had a similar foreign policy outlook to Tulsi, who also comes out of progressive Bernie Sanders-style policies. Now, she's a card-carrying member of the Republican Party. I think she's changed her views on maybe economic issues, other things. I don't really think she's changed her foreign policy views that AOC there is describing as pro-war. Frankly, I don't think Joy Reid understands what Tulsi's views are, so I don't take her misunderstanding that very seriously. But I think AOC should know that, and that Syria line, Tulsi, I disagree, I think, on things Tulsi has said about Bashar al-Assad. I have no doubt that Bashar al-Assad is a monster who has gassed and murdered his own people. I still do not think the U.S. should become involved in yet another conflict in the Middle East. I don't think the American people has any appetite whatsoever to involve the U.S. in Syria. So that is an anti-war stance that I share with Tulsi, and I think most Americans do, and I thought progressive Democrats do, but maybe something has changed where, like, progressive in Democratic circles means it means pro-intervention. I don't know what it means. Maybe you can shed some light on this for me.
Well, it's popular on MSNBC to undermine Tulsi Gabbard and call her a warmonger. When I worked pretty closely with Tulsi in the first couple years that when she was on Capitol Hill. She's always been very anti-war. She talked about ending regime change wars as she got more known nationally, and when she endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016, it was on those grounds. And so I think it's hard to spin this as she is pro-war. I strongly disagree with Tulsi Gabbard's approach with Assad and the way that she met with him in Syria. It was done without proper congressional approvals. She did it kind of on her own with an independent nonprofit. That's just not how you should be conducting foreign policy as a sitting member of Congress. So she's made mistakes, absolutely. But at the same time, you can't say she's pro-war. Her main issue has been trying to mitigate armed conflicts, and in particular, what she calls regime change wars.
Yeah, exactly. And then they call her pro-Russia, or that she's they're literally describing her as if she's a Manchurian figure, as if she's a Russian asset. This is such a both lazy and reckless smear. If you disagree with her, that's fine. Again, I'm sure there are aspects of foreign policy where I don't share her views, including on Assad's character himself, although I agree that we should not... the American people don't want intervention here. We didn't make Libya any better. We didn't make Iraq better. We got rid of Afghanistan after humiliating death for our own people. I don't think we should, back Israel to the utter end of all times as they increasingly escalate tensions with their neighbors. I support them rooting out the terrorist organization that attacked them, but I don't know that the U.S. has to pay for it. The American people want to be less involved on these fronts. Ukraine is a very tough situation where Russia should not have invaded, and it's absolutely wrong. But before the entire country collapses or every last man, woman, and child is conscripted for this defensive effort, we need to find a peaceful resolution. I hope Tulsi can be a voice for those things. She has been in the past. So I don't see, really am surprised that she is generating the highest level of anger. AOC said she dislikes that pick more than Matt Gaetz. I mean, wow. I mean, a lot of that is not even the prevailing view among Republicans. Republicans, many of whom are signaling opposition to the Matt Gaetz nomination based on some of the personal ethical issues he's had. Now, I happen to agree with that those ethical issues are serious and perhaps disqualifying, although I have to say I like some of the things he would do as Attorney General better. He's for drug legalization. He's anti-surveillance. He wants to pardon Snowden. So leftists were actually kind of excited about his candidacy. And if he gets tanked in favor of some other Republican, could be a deep state or surveillance type person on those issues, I think it would be a huge shame.
I encourage people to do a deep dive on Tulsi Gabbard over the last 10 years because you do see a little bit how, like Charlemagne the God, as we were talking about earlier, what happens when you look behind the curtain. Because what happened is Tulsi Gabbard challenged the establishment in 2016. She did not endorse Hillary Clinton. She endorsed Bernie Sanders. That's when the whole Russian asset thing started.
That's right.
Hillary called her that term. There's no evidence for that. And it's kind of, in Tulsi's perspective, she felt like that was pretty insulting as someone who's served our country in our military. But the bigger picture here is when I ran for Senate as a Democrat in Wisconsin, I ran as an anti-war Democrat. And that is very popular among the progressive populist wing of the Democratic Party. And so you don't want to get to a point, if you're a Democrat, to being seen where your party brand is one of foreign interventions, because that's out of step with a big part of the Democratic Party. I think both morally as well as politically, you want to be generally on the side of preventing armed conflicts. And there are different ways to do that, and a reasonable debate on the strength of your military, for example. That's the Reagan peace through strength idea. There are different ways to do that, but you don't want to be seen as the foreign interventionist party. That's a bad look for Democrats.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing to Republicans. I've said that to Republicans for years and years and years, that the neoconservative takeover of the party has been bad for both for global stability and the party's political fortunes. The American people, even on the right, don't want this. They signal time and time again that they are distrustful of the idea that America should police the world, that we should pay to make everyone else safer, that actually works, that doesn't make anyone safer, in fact. And Trump seems like he understands that maybe sometimes, but also his personnel decision-making just has to do with who he thought looked good on TV. Like, quite literally, in the case of the most recent administration, it's a lot of people who've said things, done well on conservative media. But I'm worried about, for instance, a Marco Rubio is, I think, very much out of a neoconservative playbook. I'm not sure about Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary nominee. I've met him a few times on Fox News. I'm interested to see what that pick means for defense. I hope it doesn't mean more military intervention. We'll find out. And then Tulsi is, I think, a strong pick in the other direction. So maybe it's about a cabinet of rivals type thing, but we'll find out.
Maybe, but I do think this concern about having neocons in the Trump administration is going to be a major problem potentially for Donald Trump. We saw that in the last administration when he chose John Bolton as his national security advisor. You could not have a more foreign interventionist guy than him, a guy who's been on the front lines of some of our worst foreign policy decisions. And so I think for Trump to really fulfill the hopes of a lot of people in the MAGA base, he should not be going so neocon, I think, on some of these appointments. And the net result, and you might see this with Marco Rubio, is eventually they're just going to diverge on opinions on what should be done, and then Marco Rubio will be added to the dustbin of all the former Trump appointees who then write books opposing Trump because they don't like him anymore.
I think that is a very wise prediction. Maybe we can hasten the day that happens and just get it over with. Lots more to come on Rising today. Eva Longoria and other celebrities, are they fleeing the country because Trump was elected? Do they hate America? We'll discuss. Stay tuned.